Hello and welcome again for this final session of our training on OpenMRS for Tajikistan. Now, we have gone through what OpenMRS is and how the OpenMRS development works, what is an OpenMRS module, and then we moved to talking about the MDRTB module which was built for Tajikistan, and then finally we looked into the web application which was built on top of Django framework. Now this session is going to be about bringing everything together, meaning we are going to look into the backend, the module itself, module development, and then its REST layer, where we are going to provide create a new endpoint, and then how to connect the front end web application with that endpoint. And for that, I'm going to go through an example of it's more of a comprehensive example. So it covers a lot of context related stuff is part of it. And what we will do is we are going to create a patient summary specifically for the patients going through enrolled in either the TB program, DOTS program, or MDR-TB program. So let's start with OpenMRS patient summary for DRTB program. That's what we will do. Let's actually make this. Now before we start, we need to first have some abstract idea of what we are trying to build. So we are going to have a patient summary, and let me create a table to see how we are going to represent it. Let's set this. So what we are going to have is let's have 2 or 3 rows. So we are going to have a header, and then of course we are going to have a body, and then maybe a summary of patient summary. Actually we'll look into that, whether it's this footer is going to be involved or not, but basically we are going to have a header, and the body is going to contain summary of every program that the patient was enrolled in. So in header, let's try to create a header here. Let's say we have a patient name Rahimov, or let's say Rustam Rahimov. Let's just assume this is the name of a patient in a system, and then for we are going to have certain attributes against this patient. So we will put in the gender, the age, the date of birth, the district, and the UUID. Well, let's just split this into 5 columns. Right, so we have name here, and then we are gonna have male, and let's say he is 42 of age, and let's say 14th May 1984 was the date of birth. and say it was Dushanbe and Sino district, and then we have a UUID something like 3F89 .C123. Let's make sure that this can all be fit. Layout, it's a very narrow margins, and let's try to so I'm creating let's actually try to pick a few real values. So this is like a mock-up, or rather a wireframe of what our data should look like. So I'm going to have like a random UUID. Yeah. And let's say this is going to be slightly lighter in color, and similarly we want this all to be fit into a single male and female, and so something like this. So 42, and this is the date of birth. Okay, these we are going to have in the middle, and this is all important stuff because this kind of styling we are going to replicate in the UI as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and store this somewhere in documents. The squared systems, presentations, workshop, and summary. Okay, so this is going to be our header, or rather say first row of our header, and let's see what else you should have. So we're gonna have identifiers, of course. So there's going to be an identifier for every active program that the patient is part of. This is 12. I don't think this is required. Let's just leave it as is, and remove this. Okay, I'm gonna say identifier as, and then in the IDs we are going to have we may have multiple IDs for one patient. So let's say we have a TB a DOTS ID. In a DOTS program, the patient had some sort of ID like 2026 07 3101, right? And then MDR TB, another ID. This was suppose. See, let me have a look into a few IDs. Need a database here. Let's see how IDs are looking like. order by date created and descending. Okay, so let's just say this is dots id and we have an mdrt bid, and of course we are going to have some sort of oh, oh, we may have actually more than one id, so let's split this into two rows, and let's see, first row is for dots IDs, and we're going to have that's how we put in, that's how, I don't know the best way to put in tabs. In tables on MS Word, and let's just say this is one ID and this patient had maybe one more program he was enrolled in. We're gonna pick another random ID. Okay, let's say these were the two identifiers for this patient, and then maybe some more observations like insert above, and say we have, I'm just putting in random information, it depends on what's needed by the program, but it's just going to be weight 45 kg, and then maybe height 168 centimeter. If in case of death, we can say death right now null, cause right now null. So if these values are available, we're going to have a value here. So let's just also make these colors a bit different. That's all we are going to look into the, we're gonna do this, deal with this when we look into the styling and also the identifiers. Let's put this yeah. Okay, I think enough for the header. We can put in other common stuff here. We're gonna look into how to do that. Now let's talk about the body. This one is rather important. So what exactly are we going to put into the body? There is going to be three different subsections. So we're gonna have, say, dots. In body we're gonna have this dots program, right? And we're gonna have like a status, like active or not. This is going to be could put in some styling, or maybe put in a box or something like that. For now let's just dots program active, and then the date of enrollment. Actually, let me split this into date enrolled and have it in this. Something like this. So active means is still getting treatment or whatever. And then for the dots, the date enrolled. Let's say it was Feb. Say 20th Feb, and this could be active, this could be inactive. Let me just, I'm gonna copy it twice, and then after this we can have, let's also split this into I want to split this cell into two columns. Yeah, something like this, or rather 3 columns, and I'll come to it why this is I think this is required. So let's have this one over here, a DOS program, date enrolled, and we can have date closed. This is going to be null, of course. And then we will have a reference to the encounter. I think this doesn't need to be like this. Should do just fine. And then the reference to encounter is going to be another UUID, of course. Select AID from encounter. Any UUID would do. Just needs to be an ID which can be populated. And let's color is going to be like this, and 9 and forget, that's, I think this is good. Now yeah, so I was saying there should be 3 sections. One of them is going to be the form. So for dots we have TB03 form, for example, which contains the key observations. Similarly, there's TB03 U form for MDR-TB, which contains the key observations for the MDR-TB program. Then we're going to have lab tests, and we will have treatment or medication, detailed info about treatment and medication. So I'm going to put that. I'm going to pause the recording here and first complete this entire thing, the design, and then we'll come back. Okay, I have finished designing the patient summary of how it's going to look like. It has 2 basic reasons actually why we are designing this. First of all, we should know beforehand what information we want to see on the patient summary. So you can add more info or maybe remove something based on what the exact requirements are, but this example should be ample enough to demonstrate how an end-to-end change works in the current module development. So what we have is the header, as we talked about, and then you can see there are 2 program enrollments. So first one is MDR-TB, second one is DOTS. So DOTS happened earlier than this, so we are actually sorting in, we are ordering in descending order of the date of, you can say, enrollment. Now this MDR-TB program is active, not closed yet, so you can see registration information, and TB03U forms key observations. Then we have some lab tests. So I tried to keep it as realistic as I could. So let's say there was a GeneXpert test which confirmed that there was RIF resistance, and a DST, since RIF is resistant, then we are looking for other drugs, isoniazid and fluoroquinolone, I always mispronounce it, and then bedaquiline, sorry for that, and then a follow-up smear microscopy which is keeping track of the burden itself. And this is standardized WHO recommended regimen on bedaquiline. And before this, prior to MDR-TB, this same patient was enrolled in DOTS program. So we had this as a new group. This was treatment after failure, treatment failed, and then these were the results. So why was treatment failed? There was no RIF detected, and there was a follow-up GeneXpert where RIF resistance was detected. So obviously baseline treatment wouldn't work, and this is this was the treatment medication. So 2 months of intensive and then continuation phase. But anyway, it could be anything. The point is to just exhibit how the summary should look like. Now we are going to move to our module. Now in order to create a patient summary, what do we need actually? Let's say I go into my API. So first of all, I'm going to need a REST resource over here in OMOD, where my HTTP request is going to land, and this OMod is going to call services from the API. So this is going to be a bit of light work. The heavy lifting is going to be obviously in the API. So let's just go ahead and see what we are doing over here. Actually, I will just pick an example from one of the existing data resource controllers and just copy paste over here, and I'm going to call it patient summary data resource controller. Okay, so now that I've added this, created a clone, first of all I'm going to fix this one. So resource is going to be, the endpoint is going to be mdr/patient summary. And now in the supported class, I have to tell my resource, this resource class, what DTO or the lightweight object is going to be used for transportation. Meaning, if you go into this DTO package, you will see all these various representations. So for example, simple TV03U data. This is all obviously these are lightweight objects to for data transportation. And you can say, if when I populate TV03 report, this object is being used, right? So for every patient I have this this collection of information. So similarly, I'm going to create a variable here, another DTO here, and that is going to be called simple patient summary data, right? And this simple patient summary data is going to be it's gonna extend base OpenMRS data class. It's going to complain about the methods that were not implemented. We also need a serializer here. We're gonna say private static final long serial what's it called? I pick something from some other, yeah, this could be like any random number, or you can just say 1L. Doesn't really matter much. We just need the Java needs something, some reference for serialization, but that's just not part of this discussion. I'm going to put in some information here which is definitely going to be required. We are going to return patient UUID and patient name, and then gender, date of birth, address, identifiers and patient programs, at least, right? So that's the information we are populating. So I'm gonna say private string patient UUID and then patient name. So these are lightweight objects. I'm not going to pass on entire patient object or entire patient name object. Full line of code. Okay, go ahead, download. It's just going to make my job easier. So in case if you're wondering why I'm not using any AI, right now is not the time. We will come to that, but in the front end implementation where it really makes sense. And I'm going to have a date, so date of birth, and then wait, string residential address. Yeah, and then I'm going to need identifiers, right? So private, and it's going to be a collection, so I can have a list. Actually, let's have a set of patient identifiers, call it patient identifiers, and then finally I have a list of patient programs. Right? And now that I have these, I'm going to need constructor, and of course the getters and setters for all these. So I should be able to generate getters and setters for all of these variables, and wrong place to put getters and setters. Okay. Alright, so now that I have patient summary data class, I'm going to pass this one as a reference. Import, and also in base report resource, and this is right now this all of it isn't required. Should have picked some other class as well as this entire thing. I will however override one method, so because my endpoint is going to look something like this: mdrtb slash patient summary, and then the patient UUID. This is going to be passed, right? Okay, I'm going to overwrite get by unique ID, and should I complete the implementation or not? If I go ahead and okay, it should be simple. I want to return a simple patient summary data object. However, this is going to be what? Patient UUID. So what I'm looking at is patient is equals to where, how do I fetch a patient object? Context, and just leave it to OpenMRS to get to deal with this entire thing. So context or get patient service, get patient by UUID, and the patient is going to be there. So if I do have a patient, if there's no patient, return null for now. However, if I have a patient, then this is what I require. So this is going to be a patient summary. Create a patient summary object, patient summary from service, and then convert into simple patient summary data object. That's what we want to be able to do. Meaning what? If I call this endpoint, let me go to Postman and try to explain what this means. Yeah, this patient summary endpoint. So it's going to be something like this: /mdrtb /patient summary, and this is a patient identifier. So once I have the patient ID, I'm going to pass on the patient object to a method in service, mdrtb service, and that method is going to return me not this DTO. So this was already explained. These DTOs are only for the web and the to communicate with the external parties. This is not a full object. So the service layer is going to have a complete object called patient summary, and that will be converted into simple patient summary data object. Now let's go ahead and jump into API. What I'm going to do in the API is, hang on a second, I think I don't have the latest code. Let me pull the latest one. Alright, I have pulled the latest code. There are certain changes which were not part of it earlier, mainly refactoring, but anyway, that's not as important right now. Okay, let's get back. Now this OMod file is this OMod module. This is all to provide resources to provide connectivity and an interface for the external entities. And as I explained in the module development day 2 as well, that everything, all business rules or data rules, those are going to be part of your API, not the OMod. OMod is only for the controller layer for representation. Now in here in the API, there are certain things I need to first do. First of all, I have to add a bunch of methods to my API. So this MDRTB service, which is the interface, is now going to provide another abstract method which will be implemented. It is actually going to return patient summary, right? This patient summary object does not yet exist, and the method name is going to be get patient summary. It is going to intake a patient object, and let's put in some documentation as well. Returns patient summary of given patient. Quite redundant, but helps sometimes. So over here I also need to provide some authentication. So the user has to have this module privilege to be able to call this, execute this method. Now this patient summary, this object does not exist, so I am going to create a class patient summary, not inside the API, but all my entities reside in the root. There aren't many custom entities, so there the convention isn't, the OpenMRS convention, the layered convention isn't to have a separate model package, but we could have done that. Anyway, that's beyond our scope. I have created a patient summary class, right? Now this patient summary, this one is an OpenMRS. This is going to be an OpenMRS object, a fully qualified object, and it is going to contain what? Private patient. First of all, the patient entity, and then we have patient's name, right? Patient name is actually the entity against the patient name is person name, the OpenMRS entity, and then we have a list of identifiers and a list of program summaries or patient programs. So I'm going to put in private list of patient identifier and list of patient program. Alright. Okay, let me think about this for a second. A patient program may contain plenty of information. We are creating this object, this class, to have an object that is going to present or hold only the relative information. So we don't actually need a complete full-fledged everything in patient program heavy object. We need a sort of a lighter object which holds a summary of each patient program. See, there are like dozens of variables, observations against any patient program. We just need the ones that are required to populate the patient summary, and that's it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to have the entire patient program here, but for patient summaries I am going to have a collection of patient program summary objects. So I'm going to say patient program summaries. Now this object also does not exist. So patient program, now I'm going to create this one, create another class, and I'll come to what we're gonna have over here. Alright, so the rest of the stuff is basically pretty standard. We're going to generate getters and setters for all of them, and then I'm also going to generate a constructor using all these variables as well. So for simplicity, I'm going to have it over here. Now, okay, IntelliJ is pretty handy in this stuff. So what I have right now is a representation of program summary in the API. Now let's dive into the patient program summary object here. What this is going to contain is some observations of a program, patient program, and also against every program we have these sort of lab tests. We also have to have those lab tests stored as well. So I'm going to create a reference point to patient program first, the reference object, and then the information I'm extracting from that patient program. It's going to be private list of observations wrong with the IntelliSenses? Need this one. Obs. So this is going to be optimize subject, and I'll just solutions. Let's just initialize it so we don't run into null catching issues. And then there's going to be a list of lab tests. Yeah. All the lab tests conducted within this program, associated with this program. So we are now going to create again, we're going to generate getters and setters, and of course we're going to have a constructor. We do need null check though. If incoming observations is not null, only then assign it. Yeah, this isn't required in modern Java. Okay, I have these, and let me add another method. This is only to give a sense of how several observations can be obtained. So we have like we want an observation for treatment outcomes, right? So I'm going to say get treatment outcome. So from all the observation set, I need to have a treatment outcome. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to return an obs, right? And this obs is going to be for all obs in observation if obs dot get concept dot equals, actually first do a null check. That shouldn't ever be null, but just to be sure. And then the obs dot concept dot equals outcome concept. Now outcome concept, where do I get it from? For this very program, this patient program, I'm going to fetch the program object, and inside the program object I have an outcome concept. So now these are a few things you get to learn as you work on the module. So this patient program get program has an outcome concept. So there are workflows, and there's plenty of other information you can pull, but basically I'm going to target outcomes concept right now and assign it to a local variable outcomes concept, and it equals this obs concept, right? If this matches, then return the respective obs. Okay. So this is going to give me the treatment outcome observation. Each program has an associated outcome concept. If an observation was recorded, the set of obs in this patient program object will be returned against outcome concept returned. Document is of utmost importance. You should be able to generate most of it, but if you are doing something bespoke or very specific, breaking the conventions for any reason, do document that, please. Anyway, so this is patient program summary, right? And one we have a set of observations, set of lab tests. Lab tests are going to be we'll see what changes we might need in these two entities in the future. Alright, so for now we have a patient summary object created, and this method is now pending in implementation. So I'm going to go to service implementation, and it's going to give me an error. I'll just say implement methods, and this method is missing, of course. Here we are. Yeah, perfect. So this is the implementation, and actually we don't really need this @override any longer. If we are implementing an interface, that's fine. Java understands that, Spring understands that. Now this is the heart of the discussion: how to provide the patient summary. This is where all the work is going to happen. All the business rules are going to get applied. So far what we did is we created wrapper and helper and supportive entities and classes. This is the real deal. So we are going to start implementing, and let's first create a list of what to do. First of all, check So number one, check if the patient is null. Number two, we require these variables. So we are returning patient summary. Let's have it side by side, and looking at the variables, I'll see what I need actually. So I'm going to fetch preferred patient name. That will be returned because there's going to be just one person name actually. Then we have identifiers. Attach all identifiers, and so we need patient programs now. We need patient programs to populate patient program summaries, right? So let's see what we need over here. So first of all, fetch patient programs. These have to be all non-voided ones. Okay. And number 5, sort the programs by the dates. Actually, this is not actually required. We are gonna sort this, of course, on the UI end, so this is pointless. Alright, then we have all the observations for this program, and to fetch the respective observations we are going to need a few more helping functions. Actually, see if we do have anything like that. Patient program so we have active attributes, we have outcome, we have states. I'm going to need observations. That's how the fetch all observations and fetch all lab tests of respective type. I'll explain what this means in a while. And we need patient summaries. So we are going to convert the patient program objects into patient summaries. Iterate all patient program objects, and then convert into patient program summary. Actually, how to convert it into add related observations to summary, to program summary, add related lab tests to program summary, and yeah, I think we are good for now. Now let's go ahead and try to implement this, try to complete this function.